I'll give him that. So it'll be interesting to see. I'm looking forward to seeing what kind of reaction he does get, and if he does really hold that presence, because that's a big thing for a lot of these bigger guys. And or either that or Matt will turn to me, and we'll be looking at each other like it is simply Sam from Game of Thrones, just with a beard. 10 foot tall. But nonetheless, looking forward to seeing it. Now, Jimbo also sent another email saying, "Thank you both for all your work and hard commitment to the podcast. Have enjoyed the Wrestling Skull podcast for as long as it's been on. I am your biggest fan, and I will be waiting for the new podcast. Cannot wait. Please stay in touch. All the best. Thanks again, Jimbo, Wrestler Squad number 9. So thank you, Jimbo, for that. Very much well appreciated. And yes, you have been there, Jimbo. We you've definitely stayed true to your word, even if it's been times where where you've got the ump a little bit, Jimbo, and you've stayed off. But he's stayed true to his word. He's been dedicated enough to stay off, and you got to appreciate that. So thanks, Jimbo, for that. Always good to hear from you, and we hope to hear from you in the future. Now, another familiar name is back with us, Stay Lucky. Why is WWE using Jinder now as a main event guy? It seems sudden and not really all that for me. Please tell me this is not going to be the case for other guys that I've not seen for a long time. Next, it will be Heath Slater. This just adds to the whole era of mid-carders and nobody really getting over. Please tell me why this is happening." Well, we did talk about it a little bit earlier, Stay Lucky, but yeah, I mean, look, I don't know if this just adds more to the whole mid-card era, or if WWE are actually serious with Jinder Mahal, or if it's a marketing machine they're trying to get in with the likes of India. I have no idea, but I will say Jinder definitely has presence. He, good luck for the guy. I'm sure even he didn't believe that he could, at one point come back and make a go of it. The thing with Jinder Mahal is he's still young enough to be a top guy. But like I said, WWE creatively, they've just got to come up with something good. I mean, I'll be honest with you, it's probably the best time he can be there, because Randy Orton, for me at the moment, is quite... He's not exactly... alarm bells are not ringing when I'm seeing Randy Orton presently. Like, I'm not overly excited to see Randy, and I think if there's any a good time to face a face champion off the back of a WrestleMania, like imagine if it was Daniel Bryan at WrestleMania 30 and then you've got to go against him, you've got no chance. Nobody's beating Daniel Bryan after it, or if it's a guy that's come up, like out of nowhere, you've got no chance. But against Randy Orton, I think you've got a good chance of actually getting, people backing you a little bit, and you never know where it goes for Jinder. I mean, I'm not saying he's the greatest worker I've seen, and I've always tried to. I've been a massive fan of Rusev. I think Rusev is a good enough main event guy, and I'd like to see him have his turn. But Matt, I mean, if he does this stint, Matt, and then goes back into where he's been, does it sort of show you where the WWE currently is with their roster, and that there is no sort of guys getting over enough, and this is just like Jinder's just been slotted in there just for this month, just for Randy? Do you feel?
Yeah, it would feel like that, and I guess I could see the logic behind that as well, because they've sort of dropped AJ down into mid-card right now when he's going for the US title, when really it should be him. After the win he got at WrestleMania, he should be the one challenging Randy Orton, so I'm not sure how they've booked that and why they've booked it that way, because given AJ's character, he should be going for the top and not settling for anything less than heavyweight title.
Yeah.
But I guess, that's what makes me wonder about Jinder now, that he might just be a sort of stepping stone to the next pay-per-view, get this House of Horrors thing out of the way, put Jinder in there as a stopgap between now and the next pay-per-view, that they can put someone more credible in there, whether it be someone like Baron Corbin, who doesn't quite get the job done, and then they move on a bit further to people like AJ at SummerSlam, when it's a you can sell that a lot more and get more money out of that match.
Mm-hmm.
It just kind of makes you feel like they're kind of planning too far ahead and not looking at the here and now so much.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. Stay lucky, thank you as always. Of course, he always ends with PS, stay lucky. Yes, we will. Leah now, is it me or does the women's division on Raw seem flat? Yeah, I mean, we spoke about that earlier, Leah, and it does feel flat at the moment. Everything that happened last week seems something happened. I think some of the women, just they're not at the standard of the other women, and I think it shows during the matches sometimes as well. I just feel like creatively they haven't really come up with anything too good. And for a long time on Raw, at least, we've been going over the same ground between Sasha and Bayley and Charlotte for a long time. That now that's finished, it's like it's going to take a while now to get this current group of girls on Raw and SmackDown even to the point where they need to be, where we're going to start having some serious you think how good last year was in the sense that you had the first women's Hell in a Cell, you had the first women's Iron Woman match, and all these big feats. Now I feel like this could be the year where I suddenly see a real flat line where it's going to go the other way. I hope that's not the case, but I am slightly worried. I do feel like they lost a lot of ground for me when they gave Charlotte's pay-per-view streak up. I thought that was dreadful because you didn't need her with the belt, but she could have still gone on with the streak of the pay-per-views. Like, even going to SmackDown with that would have given it a little bit more edge. And, Bayley could have still won the belt, but at WrestleMania, and perhaps not have pinned Charlotte at the end. You could have protected, all of them. But I felt like the way they did it, I feel like they killed themselves a little bit in all that. Matt, what do you think about that? Because I feel that was one of the worst or poorest booked things up towards WrestleMania, in my opinion, was the women's division, especially on Raw. Do you feel like that's done, like we're seeing the aftermath of all the damage now?
Yeah, it does feel like that. And it definitely reminds me of last year when pretty much nearly every result we would have changed at WrestleMania.
Yeah.
But this one, like you said, they didn't need to break that streak. They could have kept that going. And it even seems like more logical now that they had this shuffle lined up that no one else knew about going into WrestleMania. We didn't know they were going to shake up the superstars and they were going to swap shows. But they did know this, and they still went ahead and broke that streak.
Yeah,
when, like you said, they could have just left it on there and then transferred Charlotte to SmackDown, and they could have pulled the whole unjust thing that she can't get a rematch because she's changed shows, and then she would have still had to build up to the number one spot again on a different show, so she could have carried on that streak. And those are the kind of things that get people interested. I found that kind of more entertaining, that she had that streak, and it was more meaningful because it's breaking new records and treading new ground than it was her holding that title all that time. The record to me was more impressive than holding the belt. Yeah,
no, I agree with that. Totally do agree with that. Okay, now we've got a couple of emails here, and both of them saying about the same thing. We've got one from Carl Danger, and interesting name, and one from Kevin, and they're both Goldberg fans. And Carl Danger says, "We need Goldberg back, big time. Who's next?" ? And Kevin also emails in, and he says WWE needs Goldberg on a longer deal to get ratings back. Since he's been gone, ratings have gone down. Can't you see, WWE? So a couple of Goldberg fans there. Matt, if Goldberg did come back again, who would be next?
Oh, this is a good question.
Oh, please don't say Brock, by the way. I'm going to ban that one.
I would have Goldberg back. It's not like I'm not interested in Goldberg or that he doesn't do anything for WWE. I think he does have a place there. I'm just not so necessarily sure that it involves him holding the title. If he was to come back and gun for someone else, and maybe even Braun Strowman, that would be a sort of semi-interesting match right there. Especially if Braun beat him, then that sends shockwaves throughout the wrestling community because of how dominant Goldberg has been in his short stint since he returned to the WWE and the stuff that he was able to do to Brock. I think that would be a good match. And and the way they're booking Roman now, you could even have him against him. Spear versus spear, whatever they want to label that. And if Goldberg wins, people would love that.
They certainly would. Okay. Well, it's good. We definitely know Goldberg has his fans. I don't know who I would have him as far as next goes. But it's certainly on the lines of it's got to be putting over somebody in a way, because I feel that would be his role at this point anyway. But I'm not going to say he's not popular. He definitely is popular out there, no doubt about that. And he did have quite a big influence on any of the Raws he was at. Kind of the same sort of level that Brock does when he's announced at Raws as well. So, Alive 2 now. WWE seems drained out of ideas. I'm getting really bored and fed up. Last week after Raw, I almost wanted to fall asleep, but I managed to keep myself awake. I think it was all the water. So thank you for telling us there, Alive 2. Please tell me there's something to get excited about. Anything. Come on. Just let me know, guys. I'm really bored. I don't know if I'm going to watch Raw tonight. I might, but then again, I might not. So he's almost had a conversation with me in this email. Thank you, Alive 2. Sounds like you are a bit drained there, Matt. Is there any way we can get him up ready? Is there something on the horizon, Matt, that you think's going to be worth seeing for us all, potentially happening here?
Well, on the horizon, I'm not too sure. I think what we've got for now is what we've got. Like I said earlier, I think they're looking too far into the future. Not looking at the here and now. They're just looking about how much money they could make at the next big pay-per-view they got coming along, and everything that falls in between that is kind of a little bit lackluster. And it's kind of a shame they don't have that kind of sheet in front of them now to see which people are getting the bigger ratings, which champions, it's harder to judge these days, what with the network and all of that, and everyone getting the sort of equal treatment.
Absolutely.
But, for me, personally, I'm looking forward to this upcoming sort of women's tournament that we're going to get. It's a bit like the Cruiserweight kind of classic, wasn't it? And we're going to see a lot of talent in that coming up. I think it's this summer, isn't it? So it's not too far off now, that. So I'll be interested to see what names are involved in that, and I'll definitely be keeping an eye out for that.
Yes, as will I be. I'm hoping that we had a guest on here, Rhea O'Reilly. You never know. She's a big deal. And I'm hoping WWE and maybe her have been in talks and approached. And of course, another name I want to add out there is Lena Austin as well. She's quite a big deal over here. So, definitely we've got a talent in the UK, and I know it's an international kind of thing. So, Irish, British, we've got them here, that's for sure. And Rhea O'Reilly. Remember she was here twice. She's been on the podcast. If you want to go back on those interviews, feel free. Next question now is from DX1. Whilst Roman's sleeping again, do you think WWE are deciding on his future? ? Oh, that's a nice way to put it there, DX1. So Roman's sleeping again, Matt. Are WWE currently sorting anything out for him that's going to make any big difference? I've got to be honest, I don't think they are. But do you sense any big change when he comes back, Matt? And please don't say The Undertaker.
I wouldn't say that they're all gathered around a table now deciding what to do with Roman. I'd say months ago they did that and decided what they're doing with Roman. The whole thing that he is the guy that got the final match with Undertaker and sort of sent Undertaker on his way, so to speak. I think that speaks volumes that they have decided that Roman is the guy, if you want to put it that way. And if it wasn't apparent enough beforehand, it definitely is now that he is their go-to, and they definitely have huge plans for this guy.
Yep, like it or don't like it. He's WWE's... He's their foundation at the moment, isn't he? Okay, let's take the last question now then. Just Joe. I think he's emailed in a few times. Who really is Vince McMahon's right-hand man? I get conflicting reports. Triple H, Michael Hayes, or even is it Stephanie? I'm confused. Who is second in command? I'm pretty sure it's not Shane. So it's interesting. I mean, it's difficult to tell because everybody has a different role, and so I don't know that there's kind of a straight right-hand man, but one person you didn't mention that you don't really get to hear about, but if you watch WWE Network or from anything, from Total Divas to Tough Enough to anything in the past, very early WWF days, there's one name that's always been in there, and that is Kevin Dunn. And for those of